Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to the show. This is the Straight No Chaser podcast, where we talk about human freedom through money, technology, philosophy, and economics. This is our latest monthly roundup, and we have a full house. Today, we talk about AI. It's very hard not to. The things are moving so quickly, and it's pretty amazing how average Joes like myself are able to actually build things. Which before, 2-3 years ago, just would have been impossible. So everyone's excited, everyone's building, and great to chat a little bit about it. It is a topic that's hard to avoid. However, we also talk about Iran accepting Bitcoin in payment for fuel. Someone posted the idea. We have a quick chat about that. Pretty interesting. Herman talks about the Tribe of 21 tour that's happening down around the coast. Just good general all-round chat. I know you guys will enjoy this one. Awesome, boys. Nice to have a full house, everyone in the room. And before anybody says anything, I have decided what this month's episode is going to be called, and it's BIP 110, everything you need to know. And then I'm not going to say anything more about it. I think that's great clickbait right there. What do you guys say?
I'll jump off the call if that's the case. Thank you.
No comment. My official thoughts.
Well, I'm glad that went down so well.
Topic one done.
Topic one done. So, tech news. Oken, I know you had a couple of things you wanted to fire up. So why don't you kick off, buddy?
Okay, cool. We can start with the tech stuff. So firstly, I just want to kind of throw it over to Herman before we forget where we were before we came online, because I think that's a great starting point to move with as an announcement for some of the stuff that's happening in tech, and we can move into the sovereign side and a bit of the questions that we had around that. So Herman, if we could just again, just on the ending of that, our last discussion, how easy it was for you to, or the experience, what it was like to set up a federation, by yourself, using a technology that is made for people to, it's open source, you can download it on any hardware or you can use it. So how did the experience of being able to do that with a Fedimint, as somebody that continues to claim he's non-technical, how did that go?
No, dude, I've become very technical with AI, bro. Like, I've been doing some amazing things. It was easy. It was easy from the point onwards where the Start9 device came loaded with all the required software. If I had to do that from scratch, it wouldn't be easy. But with the Start9 device, I suppose you could. I think it's on Umbrel as well. I haven't looked at the Fedimint on app on Umbrel, but I think it's on there. But we used Start9. It was super easy, man. Like, there were some problems with setting up the federation at the beginning. There was some sort of a bug that didn't allow us to make it 7 of 9 or 5 of 7, and then we went down to 3 of 4, and that was super easy. But I think that's been sorted out. So the next version of the federation will have a 5 of 7, I think. And it works. It works pretty well. I've not had any failed transactions yet. I haven't been using it as my daily wallet, not yet, but I think with the next one, I probably will. So I'm super excited about it. I was getting to a point where, because they announced this. Obi was on a podcast in 2022 or 2023, I think, where Fedi came out and they made a big splash and they announced this whole thing, and it was very exciting, and everybody was very excited. And over time, they just became a little quiet, and I started suspecting towards the sort of beginning of last year, end of 2024, I started suspecting, hey, maybe this was a little bit too difficult, and they decided to very quietly stop talking about this federated custody thing. because it is technically very challenging. But yeah, they pulled it off, and it was we had the co-founder of Fedimint here, Eric, and he spent 6 weeks with us, and we chatted about that a little bit. So it was a very big technical challenge to make it work, but now that it's done, it works. It's super easy, man.
Yeah, I mean, and it's great to hear that, like, again, somebody that calls himself non-technical found it pretty easy to do, and it's now become easier for all of those on the call. I know Herman and Ricky have been waiting in with bated breath, so to say, for Start 9040 to actually come out, which originally was supposed to be 036. And then it became a complete rewrite that happened like 3 different times. I don't know if anybody's seen the interview that Matt Hill did with Guy Swan, where he spoke about it. But yeah, it's out in beta. You can go download the beta if you want to wait, or if you want to use the beta software before the official beta release. But you can go and migrate right now from 0351 over with most of your services. So there's a whole step-by-step guide. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because what everybody wanted, and also like things like your BTC Pay server, Ricky, that you might be running on there. Now you can very easily tunnel and open different services, individual services on your Start9 operating system up to the internet. So instead of going via a reverse proxy, all of that's been taken care of by another product called Start Tunnel, and you'll be able to use that. There's also a Start Bot that lives with you, and you can basically have 24/7 customer support and have it do stuff for you on your server if you want to. So you don't need things like CloudBot or OpenClaw or Hermes or any of them for your server if you want. It's an option. Tor has been abstracted as it's now a service that you. So all of these things have been done to make click, save, and you're running. Basically, even Fedimint will become a lot easier as it gets rolled out for 040. And that just means open source is becoming better, guys. The hardware that people are installing these type of things is an operating system. It's a full operating system. So now, because you can run things like Olama with click, you can also host your own local LLMs if your hardware can take it, right? So depending on what you're running StartOS on. So now you can have everything be sovereign. So you can really do sovereign computing from your pictures to your finance with Bitcoin to your AI interactions to all of that can now be locally hosted and held by you or individuals if you see it as a Fedimint setup.
Just a quick question on that. Can I ask a question? I want to know when does that become a one button install? A one click button install.
The one click, it's okay. Well, the first click is marketplace because you have to see where here, and then you just click install. It's literally boom, install.
No.
So
I
most of the services.
The actual upgrade to version 4.
Oh, so that will become after beta 6. We're currently in beta 5 right now. I'm running beta 5 on my machine. Beta 6, I think, should be out sometime this week. And in that, it should be easier. So everything is being rolled out systematically. Like currently, there isn't a Raspberry Pi image. So you can't run it on a Raspberry Pi. You can run it on an old Dell laptop like I'm doing. But I can't test it on the Raspberry Pis yet because that image hasn't been finished. So we're still in beta. We're not in the full release, but you can use it. I mean, I've been using 040 since Alpha 10 or 6. So, you know, it is what it is.
Speaking on behalf of all the non-technical people, at what point will you log into your Start9 interface and see a one-click button upgrade to version 4? Well,
I don't know if there'll be a full just one click if it's that easy, because again, it's different architectures, right? It's a complete rewrite from what 0351 was. It's so even some services you'll have to, so even in the migration process, you have to do a backup. Then you need to do a complete flash of 040 onto your hardware, which isn't difficult. Again, you use Berliner Edge or whatever, but most technical people won't want to do any of this. So currently, that's how you do it. It will be an easier like click upgrade like you do now. Like for 040 to move from beta 4 to 5, I click an upgrade button and that happens. So that will eventually happen, but it's not as easy because some of the actual services aren't built the same for the two different architectures. So 0351 and 040, it's not able to just quickly port over for some. Some of them, yes, it's very easy. It just copies over from your backup and boom, you're like ready to go. But yes, the guide is very specific on how you can do this right now and on the fact that there will be a future release for that.
Can you drop a link to that guide in the chat here? Or maybe share it in the show notes?
I mean, I'll give you because the thing is the docs give you all of them now. So you still see there's a new version of all the docs, the 0351 docs, StartOS, 040 docs, how to package, all those things. Even the Bitcoin guide that's been curated by Matt also to help out. So this is the docs link. I hope you guys can see it. So yeah, it's again, as somebody that loves sovereign computing and being able to host things yourself. So if people switch you off because they don't like you or what you said or whatever and want to do that from you, they can't and shouldn't be able to, and you should still be able to communicate. And I think tools like StartOS, Linux, all these type of things are very important for us to be able to do that and not fall into the trap of things like Windows.
So what it sounds like is that at some point there will be an easier way to upgrade, but you'll basically have to back up your entire server and you'll essentially reinstall the entire operating system. You won't be updating the operating system with the existing services remaining. You'll have to what you're essentially going to be doing is you're going to be wiping the server and you're migrating to an entirely new version. But there will be an easier way to do that in the future where you'll probably be able to do that in a more non-technical way.
Yeah, well, currently, that would be the good outlook to have. But again, Matt and Aiden are wizards, so they're probably going to come up with a way to port it easily for the one click that you want. They know that it's what people are going to mostly need, over 80-90% of the people that use the product. It's just not easy to do it that way currently. So if you currently want to run beta and you want to get started and you want the full architecture, the new look, the new everything, then it's firstly, it's always good to back up your server. You should be doing that periodically, but at any time that you do an upgrade, an update, you should have a backup in case something goes wrong. In this case, it's just a good place to port from as well. So it's good all around to have it as a practice. But yes, I do understand what you're saying, and so do Matt and everybody that's a lot smarter than me and more technical and capable than me that is working on the actual code base. And yeah, there will be a push button to upgrade from 03. But if you're older than 0351, that's not going to be a possibility for you. You'd have to be at the latest and all your services upgraded to the latest, and then you'd be able to, do the backup and then from there move on.
Got it.
I have shared the docs though. Awesome. Sorry, that took a bit longer than I thought it was going to take on that one. Gavin, would you like to move on from tech, or you want to move to the next tech topic? Because there's kind of
see the next tech topic while we're in the flow.
Ricky, what do you think about Kaparthi's LLM Wiki that came out about the basically self-evolving knowledge in research?
I'm unaware. As you guys know, I've been neck deep in end of fiscal year filings at the moment, so that's been consuming my attention. So I'm not up to date there.
Okay, I'm sharing it in the. Sorry, guys. I thought this was one that because it took the AI world by storm, basically. Yeah, here's a write-up. So, and I'll read you just a bit from the top. LLM Wiki is a pattern for building personal knowledge bases using LLMs. This is an idea file. It is designed to be copy-pasted to your own LLM agent. Its goal is to communicate the high-level idea, but your agent will build out specifics in collaboration with you. So basically the core idea is what most people experience with the LLMs and documents. It looks like RAG, like it retrieves, and then anyway, you upload a collection of files, the LLM retrieves relevant chunks to query at a time and generates an answer. This works because LLMs rediscovering knowledge from scratch on every question. There's no accumulation. Ask a subtle question that requires synthesizing 5 documents, and the LLM has to find and piece together the relevant fragments every time. Nothing is built up. Notebook LLM, ChatGPT file uploads, and most systems work this way. The idea is different. Instead of just retrieving from raw documents every query time, the LLM incrementally builds and maintains a persistent wiki, like an actual wiki, a structured interlinked collection of markdown files that sits between you and the raw sources. So with this, it's technically just having a second brain like Obsidian, and it being the base that all the things you throw in, your LLM is then updating those files to say, this is what we've ingested as the notes that you took down in your meetings versus the articles that you were reading, and you feed it in to a funnel, and then it goes through a research loop to go and find out, according to your likes and dislikes that you've given it, it then goes out and finds all that information and comes back. So it's like a research assistant on steroids that builds and learns from what it has built. And it builds smarter, it builds leaner, it builds better context for the way that you want it to be displayed and presented. So that's basically the concept of it. It's a different way of retrieving and building upon memory in a digital space so that your agent or LLM never forgets you or the conversations you've had.
Oken, is this similar to how the agents like OpenClaw work with that sort of persistent memory that they sort of get so-called personalized or customized or smarter over time because it doesn't forget the context. It has persistent memory. Is that a similar approach?
So actually, it's a complete redefinition. The approach that OpenClaw and them were using wasn't working, right? They weren't remembering. What they were doing was they were literally reading from the entire context length of everything that you've had, and then including that in the query that you were saying, hi, what is the weather today? Now it's trying to include your conversations from like 3 weeks ago. The problem is its context size is only so big. It's like the Bitcoin blockchain. You can only put so much in a block, right? Now you're trying to force more into that block. It's impossible, right? It's the same reason you can't run Bitcoin properly on an 8 gig RAM, because the UTXO set is way bigger than 8 gigabytes of RAM now, right? So now you're trying to funnel it down. So it actually shrinks context and throws away some of what you gave it, and then tries to make new context and work with that. In every iteration of that, it becomes more stupid, basically. But what this does is it says, hey, here is an entire personal web of knowledge that you have access to. Go along the web and go and find the knowledge you need, and only use that. Don't bring everything into it. So in that, it's smarter retrieval, but also smarter storage. So now you can take it from, I built this knowledge base with OpenClaw, and give it to Claude Code, or give it to ChatGPT, and literally move your second brain around and say, hey, this is how I like things organized. It's like a personal research assistant type of thing.
The way I understand this is it means that you don't have to, if you're a company, for example, like we are, you don't have to store your knowledge base with OpenAI, with fucking Sam Altman, which is concerning to say the least. You can have your own knowledge base privately hosted on your own virtual private machine, on your own private cloud, or on your own server. And then you keep all of that sensitive information locked down, and your AI that is also privately run can query that. And you don't have to have Sam Altman with his probes all up in your business.
Yeah, sorry, him, man, or anybody else. So,
sorry, I just have to jump in quickly. Did anybody see that Twitter post going around with the guy asking ChatGPT which month has is spelled with an X? Did any of you guys see that?
No.
Okay, well, I'll post it up. It's absolutely hilarious. So this guy's talking to ChatGPT, and he says, "Okay, which month of the year is spelled with an X?" And ChatGPT comes back and says, no, it's October. So Guy's like, okay, cool. Can you spell that for me? So it sort of spells it out, and then it says, oh, no, actually, it's a C and a T close together. Sounds like an X, but it's not really an X. So the guy's like, okay, well, so then which month really has an X in it? Oh, no, don't worry. It's February. Definitely February. And it went round in a loop. It was just the dumbest thing ever. And this guy apparently, he posts all these videos all the time of finding really dumb things that these LLMs are doing. And he seems to like ChatGPT for the dumb stuff. But anyway, just sorry to interrupt the conversation, but that had me in stitches.
No, I know which guy you're talking about, but we'll come back to that just quickly. Ricky, before you lose your train on that, did you want to go on, or can I just to what you were saying about the businesses?
You can carry on.
All right, so that guy is hilarious. Firstly, Gavin, I've seen another one of him doing that, and the point here is not that your AI agent is stupid. It's your LLM has been trained in a specific way and has guardrails on certain things it's allowed to do and not do. Like ChatGPT basically can't say, I don't know. It can say, I can't do that, but it can't say, I don't know, basically. So it's trying to always give you an answer. It's like the friend that tries to please everybody, right? But on like steroids, like it's really trying to please you, so that you don't not be its friend. So like when you look at it like this, the question is, what large language model, LLM, are you using? Are you using GPT 6.5? Are you using GPT 2.3? Because again, something that was great a year ago is rubbish in terms of what is capable today on any standards, not even just the paid models. I'm talking about the free model. So for what I would say is anybody really interested in this, for most of you, you won't have to care, but go and look at what's happening in the open source world of LLMs. And what people are doing there is they're taking these models like Gemma 4 that was released, and they're what they're calling like obliterators, like they're basically uncensoring these models. So the model doesn't tell you, I can't help you with that. So what you do with that type of uncensored model is what we're doing as a company now as Open Trading Enterprises and like with other partners that we're collaborating with, is we're integrating these type of systems into companies for them and saying, hey, what is it you need? And like, let's get that done for you. Because most people, as Herman has pointed out many times on here, are not going to go sit in front of a computer, look at terminal and run all these commands and, you know, battle with, oh, maybe it's just my internet versus I don't know what I'm doing. But at the same time, they also need the service. So companies are going to be using, you know, their FAQs, their training documents, and they're feeding that into their wikis, and that becomes the knowledge base for the company. That's what they're doing in China with whole school systems, right? Like children are prompting the school computers, and the AI agents at the school are only built on what is the knowledge base of the school and how. So anything you need to know about your curriculum, your studies, the school, the way the school's rules work, all of that for students and teachers is there. So think about that in a company structure. But then my company one won't look like your company one, right? Because there the IP comes in. That's where the flavors and everything. So the people that build that out, orchestrators, will probably be what we'll call them, but everybody will eventually have this type of system. The question is, like Ricky said, are you going to give this to Anthropic and OpenAI to have all your info like Google already has, and you're going to cry later when they switch you off and say no, or push up the price to use Claude because you can't go anywhere else? Or are you going to learn how to use open source, which is just as good, but runs a little bit slower, and run it on your own infrastructure that you probably already have? Like I run some of these on an 8 GB RAM. It doesn't work well, but if you have a 16 GB RAM computer or a 32 GB computer, you can run a lot of models that can do way more than what you could think you would need in your business. Like you don't need the 125 GB RAM to. What are you trying to build? Are you what are you doing with it? Like truly. So you also have to look at what are your needs and stuff like that. So in that, it comes back to Bitcoin to say a lot of Bitcoiners are building along the sense to say, what is the smallest type of logical model I can run with an agent on hardware that also has a Bitcoin wallet and can maybe send transactions via, you know, mesh core, via the mesh network, or via Bluetooth that you can do via using BitChat, and using these as a method of, if they switch off the internet, If Elon Musk decides I'm taking over the world, or whoever decides I'm switching off everybody's internet, how do we communicate? How do we share value? How does that all still happen? It will have to be with the tools that open source people have been building and perfecting over. So it's time to start seeing how commercialized these things can be used in scale and how we can make that easier. So people don't say, no, it's too technical. They're like, oh, it's easier than Facebook. Okay, cool, let's go. You know? Sorry.
Yeah, I see one of the news items I had actually flagged was Microsoft open sourced something called BitNet. I mean, why they called it that, I don't know. But that idea seems to be the same thing, to allow large AI models to run on smaller CPUs, smaller RAM, all that sort of thing. And I see NVIDIA are now also announced that they're going to come up with an open source thing called NemoClaw, AI agent, obviously looking at the success of OpenClaw and how that's going. So yeah, kind of interesting. Just interesting topics that I picked up over there. I don't know if you've got anything to add about that, Oken.
Just to end off the topic, I think there's some things that we need to talk about geopolitically, probably. But yeah, so Jensen Huang went on stage and he said every company is going to need their own version of a NemoClaw or an OpenClaw, because not having one is like saying I don't have a printer, I don't have a fax machine, I don't have email. It's like saying I don't have email in this age. It's like saying I'm sorry, you can't email me. I don't have email. I don't have a website. I don't have Signal. I don't have WhatsApp. You just can't. So it's literally like crippling your business to not figure out or have somebody figure it out for you. This is why countries like China had whole, markets of people showing other people how to do this. And around the world, you're seeing workshops pop up and festivals where people are showing people how do you actually set up your own OpenClaw or your own Hermes agent or your own Pi agent. All of them used for different reasons. Hermes is the one I think is the best for me. I've run them all, but the truth of the matter is it's going to be a part of your company, or your company is going to be behind your competitors, because it can do what no human can do while we're all asleep. It's not asleep. As long as it's got electricity and whatever you needed it to do, it can run. So every company needs one. And that's what he was saying when he announced NemoClaw, which they built with more safeguards than OpenClaw has, but their way of doing it. Again, they're going to use the NVIDIA, like the Nemotron models and stuff on that same way that Anthropic through Claude will only allow you to use Claude Code and Claude Opus, and it's not allowing you to use any other models through their harness. And that's why things like open code exist that say, hey, we'll actually give you access to free models and you can use ours, or you can bring your own API keys. And that's what you're looking at here. Like, how will yours set up? Most people will just pay Claude the 200 US a month or a year. But when Claude makes that 2,000, it's not going to be viable for a lot of them. Now they've built their entire infrastructure around something they can't afford anymore. It's the Microsoft model, right? Like you let people build and then you take from what they've built and then you gatekeep it because you've got the numbers. Now, once you do that, what does your workflow look like? It's dependent on what Anthropic or OpenAI says, and who are they dependent on? Where are they located? If Donald Trump decides something, this is my segue to you, Ricky. If Donald Trump decides something, what does the tech side of this and the sovereignty of the infrastructure that you're using look like? The same thing that the EU was looking at, trying to get away from Microsoft now and dropping Palantir and all that. It's about digital sovereignty, because people are starting to realize your data is digital oil. So who controls the oil in the digital sphere? And then I'll stop there.
And you know for a fact that companies like Anthropic and OpenAI are going to be censored to the gills once the regulations catch up with us. You know for a fact that there's some kind of bureaucrats all over the world at the moment just salivating on how they're going to regulate AI, and they're writing laws about what you can and can't use it for, and what it can and can't do, and et cetera, et cetera. So if you don't have an open source model you're running yourself, you're going to get caught up in some bureaucrat's fever dream, which is probably going to be terrible. So besides them jacking the price up on you, the quality is just going to degrade over time as the regulations catch up. Prime examples, look at crypto exchanges. Crypto exchanges, we're all old enough to remember when we first got into the space. You pretty much do what you want. It was super easy, user experience was great. And now they suck so much. They're horrible to use because the regulators have got all over it. And like, I mean, I've been on a crypto exchange in years, but it's it's you can just see where it's going, and they'll just get stifled and regulated to death. So yeah, I think it's going to be interesting to see what happens to the AI wars. And then, to something you mentioned there now is, where's your data sitting? Like, if your data is sitting in a data center in the UAE, it could get taken out by a Shahid drone. And then if your entire business is running on all that information, all of a sudden your AI tools are gone, which can really impact you. Luckily, it's quite early in the game still, so people aren't super reliant on it. But can you imagine in 2-3 years' time when entire business models are solely reliant on AI, and a data center goes down, and just happens that your data center went down where your data was being stored? Sure, there's failovers and redundancies, etc., but some of that data is going to be gone forever. So there's all of that to take into account. And then obviously, like I said, data is digital oil. I suppose it's the reason why they're building all these data centers in the UAE. That part's very strange to me, but like, they're expanding them big time in the UAE. And I assume it's because there's cheap energy there. That's probably it. But there's no water. So cooling is, going to be tricky on those things. I suppose they've got decel, which comes back to the energy thing. But the UAE is extremely exposed. So, if you just compare the landscape in the UAE versus the landscape in in Iran, which is just across the Persian Gulf, not very far away, a few dozens of miles away, it's like cheese and chalk. Iran is just mountains, and the UAE is just flat deserts. Very hard to defend your data center.
Just before you go on, just on the data center point, like a report came out that over half, I think it was over 60% of data centers that were planned to be built in the US for these AI purposes are not going to be built. So what we're going to have is a funnel of available actual resources to process anything. So all prices will have to go up. They're going to, who's running the LLMs, right? Where they're running is in data centers. Now, if less data centers are being built, but more people are using these AI data LLMs, right? Then of course you're going to either overburden what's here, and people are going to have tiered systems to say, wait, listen, to be able to use this, we're going to have to increase the price by 300 US. It used to be 20 US a month. Now we're telling you it's 320 US if you want access to where you used to have it, because we can't build more data centers. That we just don't have the resources. Everything it's impossible, right? So over 60% of them, as far as I've read, have been canceled in the US alone. So who knows about the rest globally? So it makes another shift here to say it's not just the data or the money, it's even the political will of where are these companies situated. When Anthropic first said, hey, we're not going to let you kill people autonomously with our technology, and OpenAI was like, what's up? We're in the room too. Conversation, what happens? The conversation is, what's the next conversation that we're not part of, that we didn't hear about, or has already happened, on what else is going to play out, and how those costs will be burdened on who? The rest of the world, because you're all using the technology. It's like the US dollar all over again, but with tech, it's pretty wild.
The problem that people are going to face with centralizing data in data farms is that they become very vulnerable, and they have to be somewhere that they're close to energy and they're close to cooling facilities. So there's like limitations on where you can put these things. It's very similar to Bitcoin mining, like they've got to be near where there's stranded energy that can be used. And so like those two things are going to develop kind of simultaneously together. So you can't just go and plonk a data center down anywhere. That's going to come with costs. So Russia, for example, they can put their data centers in the middle of Siberia, very close to energy sources where it's really cold. They can save a lot in cooling, and no one can get to them. No one can bomb them, But like, come back to the UAE example. Sure, you've got cheap energy, but you got to put them on the coast, because that's where they're close to water, so you can cool them, or your desal plants, which are once again on the coast. But then they can be hit by the Shahid drones from Iran, And if you're using AI to target Iran, makes sense they're going to take out your data centers, because then you've got no more targeting. So it becomes like a very interesting geopolitical play, where these things actually sit. So like, where's the brain of your army going to be sitting if you're going to be running your military and AI? But then South Africa is in a very unique position, because we have a huge amount of residential properties that over-invested in solar because of load shedding. load shedding has now subsequently gone away. It may yet come back, but all these people all of a sudden have a lot of solar, and they will have more than enough capacity to run their own LLMs with their own energy requirement from their own energy requirements there, and from their own solar production. So that becomes very interesting. What does that do to South Africans over the next 20 years, who all of a sudden will be the people that will have access to the facilities to actually run their own local AIs? That's super interesting. I don't know if many countries are sitting in that same position. There's a lot of people who have solar panels in Scotland, but they just have the panel. They don't have the power that comes with.
That's funny.
It was probably cheaper for them to put a solar panel on their roof than fix a leaky roof in Scotland.
Yeah, and I mean, it was obviously all part of the government boondoggle in the UK to be like, let's go green, net zero, all that bullshit. And then they convinced a bunch of people that it's a good idea to put solar panels on your roof in Scotland and sell power back to the grid. And you're like, okay, you're selling them 3 watts a day. This is ridiculous.
Yeah,
but it's
like you see Herman's computer behind him over there that has the lights and stuff twirling. That's how
that Herman's old gaming computer.
I think so, man. Herman's still a gamer, bro. Like Doom still runs on that thing, bro.
I only play strategy games, though.
Oh, so Command and Conquer. We're playing Command and Conquer. I'm with you, my brother. We can do it.
That was obviously the best.
Yeah, so what I was saying is
Command and Conquer series.
Always was. But the cool thing with what you have back there is, remember when they said nobody's going to have personal computers? Like in the 90s, they were like, nobody's ever going to have a personal computer. Why would people do that? Why in every house? And now every household has multiple laptops, right? So I think what you're going to end up having is almost like a Trojan horse with this whole AI thing, is because, and South Africa is the perfect example. Over residential electricity is or corporate electricity, if you want to say it like that, is oversaturated, where you can say, hey, if we can get GPUs, right, with at least 16 gigabytes of RAM or VRAM to that price to come down, maybe South Africa starts, generating their own GPUs. And this GPU, you can also, remember, you can install things on a GPU. You can install StartOS on a GPU. You can install a Bitcoin node on a GPU and also run your AI on that same GPU in every household off of your actual solar that you already have the panels for. Now what you're doing is you're decentralizing, you're making everybody sovereign, but you're also now making a way of, you're not only decentralizing your finance, but also your knowledge. Because again, if we have ways to interact with each other that is peer-to-peer communication and value-wise, we can do everything. I can write a book, post it on my server. Ricky, I send the link to my blog that Ricky sometimes goes past, or his agent does. And Ricky's like, hey, I want to actually buy that book. Let me pay for it in Bitcoin. That entire thing, the purchase, the delivery, all of that happened without me and Ricky having to have a conversation. We didn't have to send emails to each other. I don't know who Ricky is. I just know somebody bought my book and I got Bitcoin, and that's it. And you can do this easier with being able to run things like GPUs. And I really think it's a thing for South Africans to look at, is building out their own GPUs so that the cost can come way down. I mean, and South Africans want to be able to do it, I think. And that would be great. Every household with a GPU and a Bitcoin node and maybe a Bitcoin miner in a country that you can spend Bitcoin almost anywhere.
I've got a question for Herman about AI. Herman, are you seeing people in your circles in the charity at Ikasi starting to use AI to assist them in their day-to-day lives?
Yes and no. It's way more challenging than you'd imagine to get somebody to pick up the tool and just start using it. There could be many reasons for that. I guess it's probably unfamiliarity or intimidation or whatever the case may be. But once they do, it's the difference is like night and day. I finally receive emails that make sense. I don't have to decipher decipher emails anymore. I get emails that don't have spelling mistakes and grammar mistakes, and it takes me 2 minutes to read rather than half an hour, which is fantastic. No, it's really it's like night and day, the difference. But it's surprisingly difficult to get people to start using it. It not difficult, just it takes a long time to get them to jump in, you know. But I'm very optimistic about the impact that it'll have if people just start picking it up, you know, because it's like anything else. You gotta practice using it. You gotta, you know, if even if all you're doing is chatting to the thing, you still have to practice chatting to it, because it's like, well, what do I ask, you know? The first time I tried to write a little program with AI, I actually had to sit here for like 10 minutes just to think about what do I actually want to write. Like I don't even know, you know. It's like it seems so obvious, but it's not entirely obvious. So yeah.
Do you think, as somebody, Herman? Sorry, Gavin, go.
No, Okan, go for it.
No, I just wanted to know, as somebody that saw it in a community now twice, you know, technology coming in that wasn't there before, first with Bitcoin and now with AI. Herman, how do you feel like AI has better marketing and it's a bit easier for people to want to pick it up than Bitcoin did? Or do you think that the drive that Bitcoin had behind it was more authentic and homegrown almost, that made it maybe not easier, quote unquote, but less challenging than people adopting AI in what you're saying?
My feeling is it's going to be more challenging for people to adopt AI because it's not obvious what problem it solves for them. Like it's not obvious. It was more obvious to make the case for what problem Bitcoin solves. Like, you know, oh, you can't send money to your uncle that lives in the Transkei, or you can't you can't make digital payments, so you have to walk down to the local shop to buy your phone credit rather than sit at your house and do it from your phone. Like it's a more obvious problem. AI, it's like, well, what immediate problem does it solve for me? It's not entirely obvious. I mean, I've been using it, and so have you, and so you know exactly what immediate problem it solves for you. But my feeling is that it's not immediately obvious, you know, why a few spelling mistakes is something that you should definitely try and correct with AI when you're sending emails. Like, you know.
Herman, that's like so interesting what you just said there, because my sort of experience with people in my area, and obviously I'm not in a grassroots community, but my experience is the other way around. Everybody is getting excited about using AI and nobody is interested in using Bitcoin. Like my normie friends, I mean, I think they just blank stare every time the word Bitcoin comes up. So I don't even really mention it anymore. But that's really interesting that in your communities there, Bitcoin is actually solving a real problem that AI isn't. And it sort of seems opposite in, if you want to call it, the sort of first world community or something like that, where everyone's getting excited about this AI thing. I hadn't really thought about it, but that's quite an interesting insight from you there.
I mean, my opinion on this issue is that I think people who do get excited about AI and people who use AI on a regular basis, including myself, by the way, I use it every single day. Not nearly in as advanced a capacity as maybe Okan, for example, that's running his own agents and testing every single model that's out there. I'm basically copy pasting terminal outputs to try and troubleshoot issues on my computer that I've never been able to solve before. That's the sort of the most advanced capacity in which I'm using it. But still, anybody that's using AI and getting excited about it is a tiny minority of the general population. And I think we must remember that. So if you're in a group that is using AI and getting excited about it, you should remember that you're talking to a tiny minority of the global population. I think more than 80% of people, or more, I think it's more than 70% of people have never touched the chatbot. So and more than 95 or 97% of people have never used AI in any capacity that's more advanced than talking to a chatbot. So so obviously, if you're dealing with sort of grassroots stuff, you're dealing with people that are closer to the majority of the people on the planet, rather than people who are way more advanced. So I don't know. It's just I guess I wouldn't say there's huge excitement about Bitcoin and no excitement about AI. That's not quite the setup that we have here. It's just that with Bitcoin, it was more obvious how they could improve their lives, but it's not like it created huge excitement. And with AI, it just takes a little bit more explaining as to, well, this is how you should use it. This is what you should try and do with it. Try and ask it this question. Try and ask it that question. When you're writing an email, copy paste it into the chatbot first. Ask it to correct your mistakes. See where it goes from there. That kind of thing. It just takes more. Yeah, it just takes more explanation. But it's not as if the reaction is the polar opposite. That's not the point I was trying to make.
Guys, I've got a slight topic change to request. Can we discuss if Iran is actually accepting Bitcoin as payment for tolls crossing the Straits of Hormuz? As interesting as the AI conversation is.
100%, they are definitely doing it. No doubt about it. If you can think about it, it's being done. It's as simple as that. I remember my mom many years ago when she was like an office clerk. She was working on Excel, and she always said to me, if you think there's an easier way with Excel, there is definitely an easier way. You just haven't discovered it yet. Now, I mean, that was probably 30 years ago or something, but I think it holds true in general. If one person had the idea, hey, it's possible to sell oil for Bitcoin, I promise you 1,000 people have had that idea and they are active with it. How you prove it is another story, but I'm absolutely convinced it's happening.
I'm very disappointed in that story. I was hoping you were going to say your mom was part of the IRGC and she's got inside info. Yeah, look, so I don't know. I've just seen articles floating around by Bitcoin Magazine, and Lord knows they talk a lot of shit. So I don't know. And I've seen crypto be mentioned. I don't know specifically if they've mentioned Bitcoin directly. And if so, we should start seeing $2 million payments on the dot, which should be a pretty, quite easy for the authors to pick up on mempool if they're paying on chain. That is, they probably should be paying with Lightning, but then again, making $2 million payments via Lightning, it's a bit sketchy at the moment, unless each boat is running a self-hosted node with well-connected channels, which they're probably not. So it would obviously be done on chain. Do we know anything more about this?
Well, I would just say that if they'll only be doing $2 million payments if they're stupid, they will be throwing numbers around that are close to the $2 million mark, like basically random number that's very close to $2 million.
Well, it's $1 per barrel per ship. So it's actually depending on how many barrels on the ship they work out $1 amount. Yeah, but a smart guy will just say, listen, I know it's a $2 million bill, but I'm going to pay you 2.1356.37 cents, and you put the rest in credit for me for my next one. Then I'll pay you 1.9 something and balance it off. Because I think non-round numbers are more difficult to track. A $2 million payment is an easy one to surveil, I suppose. It is, but the other thing is, you would expect them not, the Iranians, the IRGC, not to come back and say it's $1 per barrel. They should rather come back and say it's X amount of satoshis per barrel or X amount of Chinese yuan, because effectively what they're doing, I mean, why price things in dollars if the dollar system is trying to destroy you, right? Which is what's basically happening in Iran. So that's an interesting one. But I suppose they got to appeal to their market, so the market knows what they're talking about.
Yeah, I think what they're doing there is they're just using the pricing everybody understands. Yeah. That's like on the flyer. The poster says $1 per barrel. And then when you inquire, when you hit the contact page and you say, I'm interested, they go, yeah, we got this Bitcoin option on the side, maybe let's talk about that. Not
It's actually 1,000 sats per barrel. Yeah, look, it's an interesting one. I know, I don't know this, but I've been saying for years that Iran has been mining Bitcoin at a state level for a long time. Makes sense when they've got sanctions on their oil. They've got a they've got a few nuclear power plants, well, in development, but they got Bushehr, which is up and running, nuclear power plant. They had apparently underground nuclear power plants at Isfahan and at Fordo, which were allegedly bombed and allegedly obliterated. So who knows? Apparently there was a big drop in, according to Simon Dixon, there was a big drop in hash rate right after they dropped the bunker buses on Fordo. So maybe that took some power offline. But if you're Iran and you were not mining Bitcoin up to this point in time, you're really stupid, and they're not stupid. So, my underlying assumption has been that they've been mining Bitcoin. Same with North Korea, same with a lot of other places. But surely this changes things tremendously. If they come out in the open and say, listen, we accepting Bitcoin as payments exclusively, because why would they accept Tether as payment? That's dumb. They'll have their money frozen. They're not going to do that. So yeah, I don't know what you guys think of this.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned the Tether thing, because that was one of the, I think, sort of the bullet points, probably from last month's roundup chat, where a few $1 billion worth of Tether was frozen recently. So I'm sure the guys know that they're not flipping stupid. Interesting thing, though, on the Iran topic is they've shut down the internet across that entire country. So I wonder if that, they obviously would run their own, they would have access to their own hashing setup, whatever they've got. But has anybody heard anything? How's the country operating without internet access? Is there anything come out of there?
I've got some info on this, actually. So it's not that the internet is cut off completely. The external connection to the internet, to outside of Iran, is cut off. The intranet, so Iran's own local networks, are all working fine. So people on their own local apps, etc., can all still communicate with each other. All their own local communication is still happening, etc., etc. So the reason why they cut that off is because there was a color revolution attempt before the war started. Obviously, I don't know if anyone's read Confessions of an Economic Hitman. It should be required reading for any Bitcoin at this point in time. But the steps of what they were trying to do with Iran were well advanced. So they first, this is going on for decades, but they started a currency crisis in Iran. And Scott Bessent, US Treasury Secretary, is out in public saying this, that they were running operations, reducing the amount of dollars available in the black market through whatever means, and trying to foment a currency crisis, which resulted in an inflationary crisis of the rial in Iran, which was specifically designed to get people out on the streets. And then when they get people out on the streets, those people are being agitated by Mossad and CIA agents on the ground, and they're giving them weapons. Trump came out and admitted to this. They were giving them a lot of weapons, and they gave them 10,000 Starlink terminals. And so this is why they cut off the internet to the outside world, is because they were receiving directives via the internet, obviously these agents on the ground, for how to try to start this color revolution. So if something very interesting happened, they kind of flipped the script on them. Because they shut down the internet, they could then triangulate where these Starlink terminals were picking up connections from, and they could track down those agents. And the people with the Starlink terminals were the Mossad and the CIA agents who were coordinating, getting instruction from Washington and from Tel Aviv, and driving the action on the ground. So they tracked them all down. They listed them. They documented who the names are. They've arrested all of them, and a lot of them were killed. So the counterintelligence in Iran was obviously on top of this. The other interesting thing I've noticed is the CIA and Mossad tried to start a revolution in Iran. And so they try to have it both ways. So they start a revolution. Then when they get caught and their agents get killed, they're like, oh, look, this is the government clamping down on innocent protesters. So they try to act, pull the victim card. But if they had pulled it off, they'd be dancing in the streets saying, look how clever we are. We staged this, this revolution, and we overthrew the regime. So, and by doing that, they would have killed a lot of people in government and people in Iran. So innocent life is not, they don't care about that. It's just a cover. at the end of the day, they want to take the Iranian regime down, and that might have something to do with the fact they don't have a Rothschild-controlled central bank. You know, we've alluded to that before. That could have something to do with it. But yeah, the internet thing in Iran is clearly not true, because how the hell are they producing those Lego videos and distributing them to the rest of the world on a hourly basis?
I was gonna say, has anybody watched the Lego videos? Those things are hilarious and weird.
It's amazing. It's like the best propaganda I've ever seen.
It's like watching. Remember when the movie came out, Team America? Like back in the day, like early 2000s. Yeah. It's like that. It's like that with Lego. It's crazy. I was like, these guys did what?
But it's like the South Park guys are actually writing the script for the Iranians. But what it does prove to you, though, that's probably not happening, but what it does prove to you, though, is that the Iranians are internet native. Like, they are so up to date in the internet culture. This is not a backward civilization. These people are clearly up to speed with what's happening in the culture war, big time. And they are non-English first language speakers who are creating propaganda material that hits with the target audience, which is Western audiences. You know, because the only way Iran wins this is by convincing the people in America that their government has been taken over by a cabal of Zionist pedophiles that run the show. And that's what they're hammering on every single time. You know, when you watch the Lego videos, because it's got to get.
But it's also, I think what this is bringing to the rest of the world is also the realization that the narrative the Western world had on other countries was completely flawed, and literally that, a narrative. It was propaganda used as a tool, completely like, and that's why I always tell people, and they're like, yeah, Okan, you talk about, I'm like, dude, go to some of these countries and go experience that what you thought was actually just a lie. You were lied to the same way people lied about us to the rest of the world. It's been going on everywhere. And the more that we actually travel, not necessarily use the internet, but travel and go to places and be within, different situations and different cultures, you realize that's a bunch of bullshit that I've known my whole life. And what's actually happening is what I'm seeing here on the ground. And this is how this is how they're using technology. It's completely different than I use it, but it works for how they do it, for what their purposes are. And it's just, it's the world is bigger and smaller than we all think it is, I think, is what I'm trying to get at there. And yeah, Iran's a perfect example of that. A lot of people had no clue. Like, who knew they were doing Lego movies in Iran, bro? What? The military? That's wild.
Yeah. And, to see the American, it's obviously, I think all of us on this podcast, we're kind of nominally in the Trump camp leading up to what's happened in the past few months. Just because we're like, the Democrats are completely fucking crazy. Joe Biden is clearly not in control. Kamala Harris is clearly a puppet. The Democrats lost the plot completely. But then, they're saying the right and blue, the red and blue, the left and right in America are just different wings of the same bird. That couldn't be more true than it is today. The deep state runs the show. Trump is clearly not in control himself. He's being whoever's pulling the strings. It's not him. They try to make it seem so hard that he is the one pulling the strings, but that's how I know he's not, because it's they're really trying to make everyone think that this guy's a genius who's playing 10D chess. And the propaganda machine in the US is kind of failing so hard, because the same machine that got Trump into power, that right-wing coalition of podcasts and all of that, that's fracturing big time, because you can see who the regime apologists are now, who are cheerleading for the war. They're so easy to spot on X, and the Fox News types. And then the people who conditionally gave their support to Trump have largely turned on him now. If you go and look at some of the big, Tucker Carlson, go and look at big podcasts again, he's not having it. So it's very interesting to see. But so Trump doesn't actually have this loyal to the death base. He has conditional supporters who are seeing through this bullshit. So yeah, I think the Iranian propaganda is targeting those people, and it's working.
But you see, Ricky, this has always been the funny thing for me about American politics and the rest of us in the world. For me, it's always been whether it's Democrat or Republican, the interests are American. It doesn't matter what you as an outsider, whether you're left or right leaning, it doesn't matter. They're not thinking about you. In all of their decisions, it's left and right Americans that are being, thought about within this context. And in that, if you look back on the videos, I found something hilarious actually yesterday or today, where it was all of the people, most of the people that are now Trump supporters, when he was president or running for president in 2016, they were against him. They were against him, but now, when it became time for him to actually become president for the second time, they were like, yeah, Trump's the best, person that we could have in here. But they were literally trashing this man's name, running it through the mud just before he became president the first time, right? And then you see what they're doing the second time, and now that they're flipping the script and saying, you know what, actually Trump's not my favorite person. He's kind of crazy, and it's like, bro, what's going on with any type of politics within that is weird. So I think it's a thing of the world waking up very much into seeing it doesn't matter what we think is happening in the US or what we're being shown is happening in the US. The US actions is what people need to look at. And those actions is how the rest of the world needs to determine things in all contexts moving forward. Because at the drop of a hat, anything can change.
Yeah. I often think that like Americans must look at people like us and they're like, why are you talking about American politics? You're not American. Like, what impacts have on you? And I'm like, it's the same as why the Gauls cared about politics in the Roman Empire. What happened in Rome is because they were directly impacting them and genociding them. And so like the US empire has an impact on the rest of the world, as we can see. And the concern for me is that the eye of Sauron is starting to turn on South Africa. And like I'm seeing some of these regime propagandists in America saying South Africa needs to get a bus club, kind of thing, where like they directing the eye of the US empire and machine in South Africa. And we are the soft underbelly of BRICS. Like South Africa's military is absolutely useless. It was, back in the day, quite a potent force, but that has been completely hollowed out. And it is absolutely useless now. So like South Africa doesn't have IRGC, there's no like military that's gonna be able to defend anything. It's not even like the Venezuelan military, So I saw a joke the other day that like Trump could send an Uber to pick up Cyril Ramaphosa, and it's kind of true, So it won't take a lot for them if they start turning the screws on South Africa for things to like get really hard for South Africans, But South Africa clearly is playing a role in BRICS' development in the multipolar world. Like we're the S in BRICS, so there's clearly someone who's got a plan for it, but it's not the ANC. So I'm a bit concerned there as to like what the play is. And you can obviously see like the intel agencies in America lining up the opposition groups in South Africa. Like they're obviously pretty keen on AfriForum and the like, because they're trying to push the genocide narrative in South Africa. But I think the guys at AfriForum, and I know some of them personally, like they're much smarter than this. Like they're not going to let themselves get dragged into being a proxy for the CIA in South Africa. Like that's not going to happen because they understand where this ends. So yeah, things are going to get interesting, I think. But the eye of Sauron is upon us.
Oh, fully. It's being built in real time. It's called Mythos. We shouldn't even speak about that. That one's crazy. We created something that's so wonderful and so worrying we can't release it to the public. But we'll give it to these 7 companies. Yeah.
Is it made out of Lego?
I wish it was. So just a quick one. So Claude, Anthropic Claude created something that's above Claude Opus or Claude anything. They have a whole new model that's called Mythos, and they put it in a sandbox and told it to try and get out, and it did. It broke out of where they put it, and it emailed the developer to say, I'm out. So literally this thing is able to find 0-day vulnerabilities in software that has been out for 20, 30 years, that is in everything. It has been able to find what hackers and what security experts haven't been able to find in 30 years. It found, right? And it wrote exploits for these things. So that's why they're saying they can't release it to the public. But that if they're telling us this now, it means they've probably had this for a bit longer than anybody actually cares to know. And they've been using it actively before they told us, hey, we have this really dangerous thing. They've already been using it on everybody and everything that they can. So with that and Palantir together, you basically have the eye of Sauron, as Ricky has said, and that's where we are. We're in trouble. And I think it's just that people need to know that big tech companies are not your friends, and they never have been. So they won't be in the future. So just look out for yourself and see how best to protect yourself moving forward. It's like getting a gun. Instead of thinking, when my house gets broken into, the police will be there on time to save me before I get shot. Get your AI gun. Get ready.
Cool, man. Guys, we're coming close up onto time. There's just two little items I wanted to finish off with. One is quick shout out to the Atlas Pool guys down in Cape Town. They've created a little mining pool, which is quite cool. I think Max posted something about it, and I've read up a little bit on it. So that's very cool. I don't know if anyone's tried to use it and what the experience has been, but I mean, from what I know about pools is you just point and wait. Yeah, that was pretty cool. And then the last thing I wanted to quickly, Herman, over to you, man. Just wanted to ask you a little bit about this Tribe of 21. I saw something posted up on Twitter recently about that. I must say, dude, I don't know how you post the sheer volume of stuff you do. It is, I mean, I don't know. I pick up my phone to tweet something. I see 50 of yours. I get tired and I put my phone straight back down again. But yeah, can you quickly chat to us about the Tribe of 21, a bit of background, how it's going, and yeah, a good point to round up on, I think.
It's not me posting all that stuff. It's it's a bunch of people. There's two people three people that post other than myself. But yeah, I'm a little bleak this morning, especially with the geopolitical conversation, because my wife just got denied a visa to go to Europe. They don't accept Russian applications, so we were gonna do a trip to BTC Prague. We had it all planned out. We bought the air tickets, and the Czech consulate refused us to accept a Russian passport. So I'm a little bleak. Yeah. Anyway, so if I seem a little distant, my apologies. But she just told me about that now. Anyway, the Tribe of 21 is just a road trip through South Africa to visit a bunch of circular economies. We did that post conference after the Adopting Bitcoin Cape Town conference. We've done that every year, but this year in what's the year? 2026. This year we did the road trip in a more professional way. So my wife's tour company took over the logistics and the management of that road trip. And so the Tribe of 21 is just expanding on that idea. So we're gonna try and do that throughout the year, not only post conference, but we'll give people the opportunity to come on a holiday to South Africa, but it's all centered around visiting circular economies and trying to, see how far you can get away with living only on Bitcoin. Obviously, as a tour company, we've been using Bitcoin for ages, and the business survived thanks to Bitcoin. And we've got all these economies here, which is really cool. And South Africa in general. I mean, especially with Money Badger, you can essentially, you can get along without ever having to touch fiat. So it'll be an interesting experience for Bitcoiners from around the world. People are always excited when they get there and they see how easy and how often you're able to get things done with Bitcoin. You could probably come to South Africa with a Bitcoin wallet and never have to touch your credit card if you're here as a tourist. Some bookings on Airbnb might be a hassle, for example. Some hotels might be a hassle, but if you book those things in advance, maybe you could get your way around that. But you could probably figure things out here as a tourist. And so that's what it is. We're trying to expand the post-conference road trip with the Tribe of 21. We'll try and do maybe 2 trips before the next conference if we get the bookings. We'll see.
For anybody listening to this, yeah, I've done that twice. Lived off of Bitcoin in South Africa every January for 2 different Adopting Bitcoin conferences for accommodation, flights, food, all of that. Herman, it's really messed up to hear that your wife didn't get the visa and that they denied it. This visa thing for us in Africa, for those also watching, it's not as easy as it is for you guys coming over here for us to even apply to get over there. Just the application process is killer. Just wanted to let people know so that they know why this is actually being also mentioned. It's not an easy process for us to get to Europe or to America or anywhere.
Yeah, and it's fucked up that it has an impact on people that just want to do regular things, like, you know, just want to go and visit want to go visit the country, attend a conference, and, you know, because of all these geopolitical things that you have no control over, really. I mean, you can try and understand it, and it's fascinating. And I spend at least 2 hours every night listening to podcasts trying to figure out what the fuck is going on with this whole situation between Russia, Ukraine, Europe, US, Iran, Israel. It's just insane, the amount of it's fucking insane. I mean, I understand why most people just ignore this stuff, man. I totally get it. Like, you need to be a little bit of a autistic individual to even want to climb down that rabbit hole and try and figure out what the fuck is going on here. Because as soon as you start asking questions, nothing makes sense, man. Like, none of the excuses you hear on the sort of mainstream media makes any fucking sense at all. And only the most ignorant people who willfully ignore reality will accept the nonsense excuses that you hear for why all of this stuff is happening. So trying to figure out what's really going on is just, yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, sorry, dude. That sucks. Sorry to hear it. That's a bummer, man. But guys, I think that's a wrap. I want to be respectful of everybody's time. 1 or 2 of you have said they've got multiple meetings today, so I don't want to stuff that up for you. Boys, as always, it's a pleasure. Show notes will go up. I'll put the stuff you open, the links you put on the show notes. And awesome, man. Go out there, kill it, and we will, same time, same place next month. Have a goodie.
Thanks, guys. Have a good one.
Guys, just quickly,
Cool, man.
I'll send you guys something else. It's going to be awesome.
Cheers.
I'm going to rush off and go watch Lego videos now, just letting you know.
It's worth it.
I'm not sending you Lego videos.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers, guys. It's fun. Cheers.